Thanks to everybody for coming out, and a future hello to everyone watching the replay. Welcome to today's workshop on attracting more hospitals with less content. We're going to start with some quick housekeeping. So, this is a casual event and it's just for healthcare tech marketers. So, feel free to talk, network, and drop your LinkedIn profile or links in the public comments section or the private chat area to the right. If you do need to leave early or have a question, post it in the chat at any point and I'll make sure it gets addressed so you can review it when the replay is sent out. Also, if you want to grab some time with me at any point in time to discuss how to do more with less in your home program, you'll find a link to my calendar in the chat and you can grab some time now or at any point during today's session. So, today, one second. You are going to walk away with the top 5 opportunities to do more with less content. This includes why the traditional approaches to each are a good idea, but also why they can fall short in an time of like high opportunity and increasing intricacies in healthcare and the volatility in the industry. So, for each, we're going to cover how to go beyond typical efficiency methods and how to step into targeted efficiency. We're also going to look at the one tactic that brings it all together and gets you moving toward really proving that marketing can be a profit center at your organization. But I'm not going to make you wait to hear what that is. That one thing is meeting hospitals and health system leaders where they are through listening, something I call evidence based listening. And we'll get into the details of that later. So, quick intro. My name is Megan Williams. I am a hospital content marketing consultant and freelance writer. I help marketing leaders like you with early stage programs and campaigns, helping you get results and progress in program maturity. I believe that sophisticated vendor content helps hospitals and health systems make better tech decisions for their care communities. And I've been in healthcare software for over 20 years, most of which was working at a vendor directly with hospital leaders. And I've got about 10 years of experience in healthcare enterprise content marketing. I've worked on content teams including Cardinal Health, Iron Mountain Health, GE Health, Wolters Kluwer, and a range of hospital software vendors over the years. And even though I'm a healthcare person at my core, I actually learned B2B content in combat sports, which is why I'm highly focused on efficiency and effectiveness and not just publishing content for the sake of publishing. So, the reality of what I've seen in healthcare tech vendor content. You and your team are working too hard, but your content is not working hard enough. I hear about overwork all the time, and fortunately, things are getting more intense. Marketing budgets as a percent of revenue have fallen 15% to 7.7% in the last year, according to Marketing Week. And at the same time, I'm seeing marketers get pulled away for other projects. So content might not be getting the attention that it needs. Resources are getting tighter, but targets and financial goals are still increasing, which is, there's a good reason for that. And it's because healthcare enterprise software is an $84 billion industry and it's projected to be up to 197 billion by 2030. So there's a lot of opportunity out here. And that means you need a way to streamline your workloads. And you want to do that in a way that proves the value of your team and gets you on the path to being seen as less of a cost center, which we know marketing tends to be first on the chopping block when things get tight. So as it's my goal as a consultant to help you incorporate target listening into your program and campaign DNA from the beginning, so you're more successful and your budget is easy to defend. It's honestly very easy to simply publish content to try to achieve that goal. The hard part is really infusing it into your strategy in an effective way. And that is partly because of the nature of hospital leader pain points and that they've changed in recent years. Change moves so much faster these days. Just in the last 4 years, we've seen COVID, we've seen the change breach, and now questions about AI are looming across the board. At the same time, hospital and health system, hospital and health system leader decisions are also becoming more complex. So any tech solution now impacts at the hospital level, but also the health system level. It affects in the long and the short term, and it flows to different stakeholders across the healthcare ecosystem outside of hospitals and health systems. Also, more roles are being impacted and are part of the buying process. And this has always been true. The hospital buying committee has always been complex, but the intensity is increasing. Any topic that you're covering as a vendor is going to intersect with economic buyers, clinical leadership, revenue cycle, administrative role, and leaders beyond that. So, all of this means that vendors who want to stay competitive and need content marketing strategies that keep up with the hospital and health system market. The great thing about this is that the increase in complexity means that those same leaders need your insights more than ever. You have insights that they don't. They need content from you that really leans into your differentiating expertise and what your organization is learning at a high level from working with multiple entities like them. And you need to get that and you need to get that expertise to them in the most efficient way possible. So let's get into it. We are going to start our countdown of your top 5 opportunities to do more with less content. So, number 5, reducing phantom friction. Friction in content marketing is anything that disrupts a smooth content experience and slows down conversion. Phantom friction is incredibly common, and it's any area that ignores the content preferences and needs of your hospital and health system decision makers for some other priority. Typically, addressing friction involves ensuring all your content links somewhere and that it just doesn't dead end. Things like improving readability and making your content easy to access. And these are all great best practices. But in enterprise healthcare, phantom friction sabotages a lot of vendors. I've seen a ton of content in healthcare tech that simply talked past the reader because it focused on how great a solution was, or it hyper focused on results, or just used too many internal marketing terms and not the native terminology. Now, the efficiently payoff is if you get this correct, you're just going to be doing less work to get your message across and wasting less time in creating low yield pieces and fruitless distribution. You get to this level by knowing your buyer content preferences specific to the hospital and health system space. For example, I've compiled data from surveys of hundreds of hospital and health system leaders conducted by healthcare market research firm Eliciting Insights. And we found that hospital clinical buyers, for example, find the content types here most useful. So we see that demos came in at very high at 75%, and then traditional written content was a bit lower. You can see here that if you know that clinical buyers are key decision makers for your decisions for your solutions, it might be smarter to put off some investment in these long form written content types if you haven't yet optimized your demo experience. Now, I've worked on this actual example with a hospital financial decision support client in identifying which aspects of their demos would be best fit for application on the marketing side. And demos are typically the purview of sales, but it could be worth experimenting with something like demos on demand, like a remixed version of your demo experience. Nothing proprietary or too specific, but something that allows for self service access to your platform experience. It's also something you could even use as a delivery mechanism for other forms of content. Moving on to number 4, atomizing robust content. Now, this concept has been really well developed by enterprise content marketing leader Skyward. It involves taking a meaty core piece of long form content and breaking it into smaller pieces and different formats. This tends to be accessible for a lot of healthcare tech vendors who often have old white papers or case studies that might just need a little bit of refreshing, but that lean toward the bulky side and maybe sometimes a little bit less exciting. The challenge here is that there are a million different ways to atomize your content, but your hospital and health system buyers have very specific preferences. What I love about this tactic is that efficiency is just built inherently into it. The payoff is that it's a great way to scale and maximize the impact of your content marketing efforts. Atomization starts with long content, so it's just a matter of either using what you've got and refreshing it, or making an investment to create a really rich piece of content that you can slice and dice for months or even years. Now, the key to atomization is that you always have to meet hospital and health system leaders where they are and let them guide your choices. So, for example, based on the research I mentioned earlier, hospital and health system CFOs do prefer shorter content. Great news for atomization. The issue is that they don't really trust easily. So, they want to hear endorsement from an established industry source along with whatever content they're consuming. And actually ran into a really great, and actually worked on a team with a really great example of this. It was a payment automation company that I worked with that had yearly conferences, tons of deep information, and they would bring in highly respected experts from around the world. What they did is they conducted market research on personas and topic preferences and used that to fuel a year or two worth of content. They turned it into white papers, email, social media, all adjusted by persona. They were able to create a really large amount of flexible, highly targeted, and effective content with a very lean team. And this can be a really strong play, especially if you're using AI in your repurposing or content creation efforts. And what I love most about this opportunity is that almost every vendor has an opportunity here. So if you want to have some help in figuring out where your immediate opportunity is, grab some time on my calendar to the right. But before we get into number three, we're going to do a quick question. What non-healthcare brands content do you love? What non-healthcare brands content do you love? My personal favorite is Mental Floss, even though they do have some really interesting health content, but I find them really interesting. They have some really diverse topics. So just go ahead and drop that in the chat. Target, that's a good one. Theirs is beautiful. Yeah, I love them. Okay, so next, on to number three, integrating your stories. This tactic involves weaving elements of your case studies and testimonials into other pieces of content. Now, most people do just use case studies and link to them on their content like blogs and white papers. And again, this is fine. It's a great practice, but you're missing out on the opportunity to really connect thought leadership and insights from subject matter experts and leadership and really making that connection to your proven results. If you get this one right, you're connecting the dots to your internal knowledge, your wisdom, and what your organization has learned across years working with your customer base. This is where you really differentiate, and it's an easy way to refresh existing content. So, for example, instead of starting an entirely new blog series, you might want to use case studies and testimonials to reframe and refresh some topics that you might have already covered in the past. But the thing about this is that listening here is absolutely critical. You want to focus integration of case studies and testimonials into content pieces where there's really strong alignment. The trick is knowing what topics to target and what elements to pull from case studies to highlight. So you might have a case study where your results section covers cost savings, increased efficiency, and a better experience, but you don't want to dump all of that into one blog. You want to really be really targeted and listen to your healthcare leaders to know which angle to focus on so you can reframe in a way that really aligns with their pain points. And what's great about this tactic is that it's kind of a two for one. Back in my revenue cycle days, I actually sat face to face with an extremely disappointed, and I'm putting it gently, hospital CFO. So I know how vendor relationships can deteriorate without proactive attention. When you're integrating your stories, you're addressing your prospects, but it can also be a really strong customer marketing play. So, whatever customer experiences you do choose to highlight, make sure to contact them and make them aware so that they can brag a little themselves and they can even support your distribution. Going back to my content marketing survey results from earlier, most of the leaders lean really heavily on peer input in their vendor selection. So, having them get your name out there is always a huge plus. And this is something I actually incorporate a lot when I'm writing for clients, and I've gotten awesome feedback. It's why when you do an onboarding call with me, I do like to talk success stories as early as possible on a project. All right, we're getting to the top of the list. So, number two, personalized by persona or ideal client profile. So, this is just connecting with hospital and health system leaders by really letting them know you see them as individuals. And the most common tactic here is things like personalization fields, so name, hospital name, titles, etc. These are great, but everybody does it. The problem is that it doesn't differentiate or showcase your unique understanding of leadership pain points. The nice thing about this in terms of efficiency is that when you really get this level of alignment right, you can use it as a layer on top of other content. So you're repurposing content, but with more accuracy and in a way that immediately demonstrates that you really get hospital and health system challenges. Some examples of this are personalizing by pain point, region, or even EHR or something like the timing of their budget season. Listening is critical here because you really want to make it painfully clear that you understand their challenges. Really nailing this one generally requires custom market research. You can definitely use existing studies that are out there, but to really get detailed insights by hospital size, region, or software system, you do generally have to dig a little deeper. What I love about this tactic is the way a little upfront investment scales. So if you do the work to figure out how to personalize at this level, the output you get from market research can be applied 1,000 different ways over time and multiple campaigns, and even woven into sales processes to improve marketing and sales alignment. And I actually use it most prominently in my smart content recycling service. And this is honestly something that I recommend to all content programs to eventually aspire to. So if you want to talk about where you can apply this in your home program, grab some time in my calendar over to the right. And we are now moving to number one, distributing with intention. I put this one at number one because it is the area of opportunity I see enterprise health tech vendors missing out on most frequently. The thing is, if you master this one, even if you only get a bit better at it, it can pay dividends for every single piece of content. But if you get it wrong, you're missing out on an incalculable opportunity. The opportunity cost is just ridiculously high. I have seen too many vendors burn a ton of time and opportunity using traditional methods like press releases, underdeveloped social media strategies, and honestly, just hoping that SEO will eventually kick in. And none of these are wrong, but hospital and health system leaders are amazingly busy and have highly specific content expectations. Now, the beauty here is that if you have even a meager content bank, you can focus on this tactic to refine your distribution before investing in more content creation. So that when you do have more in your bank, you know exactly how to get it to your buyers. If you want to meet hospital and health system leaders where they are, listening is an absolute must. You need to know the preferred platforms, the publications, and the conferences that your decision makers under your ideal client profile, the ones that they know, like, and trust, and focus your distribution there. So, what does this look like? With any vendor who's got strong opportunities around distribution, I always like to start with the top watering holes and work from there. And if you on this page, you will see a look at the top watering holes according to the survey of hospital and health system leaders that I mentioned earlier. And this is actually a mix of financial and administrative buyers within the hospital. And it's an interesting combination of some predictable names and some you might not expect. So we see a Becker's, which of course that's going to be there, HFMA, of course that's going to be there. But LinkedIn groups actually ranked very high, and you'll also see colleagues listed, which is always up there for any group of buyers with on the hospital buying committee. Okay, on a side note, if you'd like to look at more insights into how hospital leaders engage with content marketing, especially for the financial and clinical buyers, the link to my resource center is over on the right in the chat. Okay. All right, so we have walked through the countdown, and you've probably got a couple of ideas of how to use a couple of those tactics in your home program. But you want to execute the right way and avoid stale best practices that don't pay off. The one key that I mentioned earlier, evidence-based listing, this is the key to achieving the content marketing holy grail of the right content at the right place at the right time. Now, evidence-based listening is the act of focusing your content and grounding it in the reality of hospital and health system needs, all to enable accuracy and precision in your program. And it actually involves a few different levels of application. The first is the most accessible. That's the customer listening exercises. This is just surveying your customers to understand the real reasons that they're working with you and why they really decided to engage with you as a vendor. The answers can be really surprising. The second level involves using existing market research and information. That includes the kind that I publish, but and that I've mentioned here, but there are also honestly a ton of resources out there for the hospital space that have great insights into how and why hospitals buy tech. For example, I don't know if you saw the recent Becker's article. I think it just came out first of this month on buzzwords that healthcare executives hate most. And there were a couple on there that I see vendors use in their market facing content all the time. Things like the word providers, the term workforce crisis, and even burnout. Now, these are those little areas of sensitivity that you can reflect in your content and writing and like even in your style guide to differentiate your brand and prove that you're really listening. The third is custom market research. This is the most intensive investment, but it's where you can gain serious ground in really nailing what your ideal customers want and demonstrating marketing's value as a profit center. If you get started on this process, you'll be clearing a path to productive efficiency, and that's the kind that helps you really prove marketing's value to leadership in form of quantifiable improvement in brand recognition, documented lead gen, evidence of what content spurred what customer action, but that is a workshop for another day. So, evidence-based listing is actually the foundation of my value-based content marketing framework. And that's the framework that I use for all of my clients to simplify healthcare content marketing and really start finding opportunities to move your programs and campaigns to the next level of maturity, getting more done with less effort. So, a quick recap. Today, we've covered the fact that you are doing too much or you're distracted because your content lift seems too big. And we covered the main tactics for getting more done with less content, reducing phantom friction, atomizing robust content, integrating your stories, personalizing by persona or ICP, and distributing with intention. It all starts with evidence based listening to create effective content and discover targeted efficiency opportunities. And you want to integrate this kind of listening into the content marketing program DNA now to prove value later as your program matures. Okay, moving on to Q&A. Feel free to ask anything about the tactics that we've covered here, how to get started in your home program. Even if you like StreamYard, this platform is one of my personal favorites, just because it looks a bit more modern than like your average Zoom call. If you want to use it for your own webinars and workshops, feel free to even ask about that. Okay. All right. No questions? Okay, so if you want to look for opportunities to close out this year stronger or launch into 2025 with a more effective approach to content at your home program, I can give you my top recommendations after talking out how your program is structured now and just grab some time for a discovery call on the right. I will be sending out a replay of this to everybody along with some other information, including some of the research that we discussed here. Thanks again for attending and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, that was, I will send everybody a link to that too. The intentional list, the buzzwords piece is really interesting. It was really good. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Heather.